Hey, what's up, YouTubers? Well, I want to give you guys an update of what's going on with my son. I know a lot of you are praying for me. I really appreciate that. The police is investigating the satanic ritual abuse. I've had some people that knew the mother of my son that came out of this same satanic coven where she was involved in. And, they're the ones that briefed me into what's going on with my son. Told me to read Fritz Springmeier's book and stuff like that. So, they're being contacted as witnesses, and the police promised that they were going to take a look at my file and take a look and see what CPS had done as far as investigating the abuse of my son. So they do work hand in hand. I'm hopeful. I mean, so far the last 10 years, I've just been getting stonewalled every day, but I haven't lost hope. But the whole system is completely stacked up against me. Regarding the rape, they told me that the only way that they could prosecute that is if I had, going the very next day after she drugged me to get a drug test and see if she had slipped something on me. And I didn't do that, and it's 10 years later. So outside of that, it's very difficult to prove rape because it would be my word against hers, and she's of course not going to admit that she drugged me to try to get this kid. And I try to say, well, how about circumstantial evidence, the fact that she drugged them and all that, and that she stalked me for 5 months, and they said no. So and then I've been arguing with DCSS, is the Department of Child Support Services. They split the department up into several different entities. That way they have you chasing your tail in circles like a dog. So the DCSS, they just collect money. And I've gone to DCSS and I've told them, look, this woman has done absolutely everything in her power to prevent me from earning a living. I mean, she's accused me of all these ridiculous things, blackballed me in the intellectual property legal community, and all that, and I couldn't get a job. And then when I started my business, she spent 3-4 years pretending to be a bride, that we ruined her wedding. All these, she pretended to be all these different brides, going on chat boards, putting all these horrible posts that we, ruined her day. And she would call my brides, call my clients, and all that. And she did that for 4 years, and it took her 4 years to bring me down. Every year I'd have to be advertising more or be switching my market around a little more, or my offering of services and all that. And it took her a bunch of years to take me down. So she just wants to keep me down. Now, when you go to DCSS and I have a stack about this big of all the evidence, they don't even look at that. They're like, she may or may not, they're like, even if you can prove conclusively that she's done everything to keep you from working, it doesn't matter, because they only look at your ability to work on that day forward. So the whole system is rigged up. I mean, this is like a pedophile or a Satanist dream, the way this whole system is set up. Because they're like, well, you have the ability to work. So I'm looking, and I'm telling him right now, I'm like, okay, well, she destroyed my business, and I was making really good money when I had that. And I mean, what am I going to do now? Let's say I get a job making $1,000 a week. After taxes, okay, I'm gonna get what, 800 or less than that, and then she's gonna take half of that for the basic child support, because I have one son and I have no visitation because of all the dirty tricks that she plays. So there goes half my paycheck. I have 400 left. And then there's $80,000 for all these hardcore drugs, Ritalin, lithium, all this stuff that's back support that they won't take off, and that I refuse to pay. I refuse to pay for drugging my son. So there's another $200. So I have $200 left out in my paycheck. And then she could always, ask for, well, I guess she can't ask for babysitting anymore, but she could always ask for other expenses. So $200, what am I going to do with $200? I can't even buy gas for $200, or pay car insurance, or pay rent, or buy food, or anything like that. And I've petitioned for disability. I have a growing medical disability that's been going on for 10 years, and they keep denying me. And I've even applied for emergency, just money for food, or food stamps or whatever. And we'll see what they say. They haven't told me anything. I just did that this week, but that's not going to pay any bills. They get you real good. CPS, they don't really do anything. Basically, CPS, if you have when you call them out and you have a reason to call them out, they go and they claim to do their own investigation. You never get a record of it. They just tell you that they looked into it. They never give you any information. They say that you can go to juvenile hall to subpoena it, and that's like an impossible amount of loopholes that you have to go through for you to even get that. So they effectively, this is, I call it state-sponsored terrorism, because they can be doing whatever the hell they want to my son, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And ultimately, they can eventually find me in contempt of court for not paying support, even if I'm unemployed. And they could say you're going to county jail for that. So I don't know. At least there, I would have 3 meals in the cot. I don't know if I would have internet access there. Probably not. But I definitely don't want to end up in county jail over that. But your prayers are appreciated. The cops are still invested. They're just starting to investigate. I don't know what's going to happen, but this child is being brutally abused. And I talked to them about the satanic abuse, and they say that basically she can practice Satanism all she wants, and it's not illegal. And because the doctor, she has a medical doctor prescribing the lithium and the Ritalin and the Depakote and all these drugs, the doctor, he never gets in trouble, because he can say, oh, well, he's pediatric bipolar, and we have all these studies, and I'm practicing medicine within reason or whatever, so he gets off the hook. These are all these Project Paperclip Nazi doctors. They're protected by the AMA and by these clinical studies that they drum up and all that, and they can get away with the drugging. And the doctor can always say, oh, well, I didn't know that she was doing this to this child. As far as the Satanism, they can do that. She can teach him Harry Potter. She can teach him Dungeons and Dragons. She can teach him Pokemon, which she does. And she can initiate him into Aleister Crowley or Madame Blavatsky or whatever, Albert Pike or whatever, Satanism or Masonry or whatever she wants to, and she's free to do that. The only instance in which she would be in trouble is if, for example, if they're doing satanic rituals and everyone in there is in agreement to doing them, and she's exposing them, she has every right to do that. It's only if they're killing animals or murdering people and their satanic rites that if the people are people that are kidnapped and tortured or murdered, or if they're cutting torturing animals, or cutting off the heads of chickens or whatever they do, then that would be a problem. But it would have to be proven that was a problem, and then it wouldn't go towards him really. And with all the people that I've talked to, even if I can prove that she's a hardcore satanic witch that's drugging him and initiating him into all of this stuff, they said that even if I could prove all that, it would be very difficult for me to take this child away from her through custody. That they might give me joint custody. And the whole thing with joint custody, I mean, even when I got to see my son with her willingly, allowing it, she was constantly passive aggressive and constantly finding ways to attack me or make my life impossible. So, she would not be amenable, obviously, and it would just be a huge nightmare. And for me to just completely, take my son away from her would, I would have to go to court, and this would be a family court issue. I would have to go there with expert testimony and expert witnesses and $300-400 an hour lawyers, which I don't have money for. And I mean, the system is just so corrupt, man, that there's really very little or nothing you can do. I mean, Dr. Mengele or Hitler would just be proud of how the system works. Dr. Mengele is the SS officer that was in charge of all the human experimentation with the Jews in World War II. But writings of Fritz Springmeier and all of that stuff, this thing is very real. There's millions of victims. This is at the very core of the battle that Satan wages on the seed of Abraham, and it's fully protected by the government and sponsored and endorsed through their laws. They're completely anti-biblical, So I just call it state-sponsored terrorism. So I don't know. I appreciate your prayers. I think the Lord's coming back real soon, and I think the Lord's just going to take care of that, and and He's going to give us the victory, and all of those Satan worshipers are going to be cast into the lake of fire where they belong. Because they hate God and they hate His Word and they hate the truth, and they would only wish to enslave us and destroy us. Those of us who believe the book and try to live holy and righteous lives unto the Lord. So that's about all, man. I appreciate your prayers. I don't know where this is going, or how this thing would ever get resolved. But I just thought I would give you guys an update. And, she's going online and putting all these horrible, ridiculous accusations about me that none of them are true. And I sent that to DCSS. And I said, look, how the hell am I supposed to make a living when this woman's just like character assassinating me all over the place? And they're like, as long as you're able to work, they're like, why don't you go to Starbucks or Burger King and get a job? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go get an $8 an hour job so she can take, 80% of my check. And I'm not even going to have enough money to pay for gasoline to go to work. Yeah, that sounds really good. But that's what they do. So appreciate your prayers. God said in His Word that He's going to judge him. He's going to judge him, and it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And one day God is just going to burn them to a crisp, and He's going to put them where they belong. So God bless you all. I appreciate your prayers. Bye-bye.